As you learn about the narcissistic pattern, it's also wise to reflect on the much healthier alternatives. Now, below you're going to find a link to my new extensive course called Ready, Set, Connect. It addresses both the mindset and the skills involved in gratifying relationships, and I hope you'll find it to be quite therapeutic. Quite a number of years ago, I was having a conversation with a mentor of mine, and it's a man that I still hold in highest regard. We were having a conversation about how to get along best with people and what's required in terms of setting the table, so to speak, for healthy relationships. And he just made one of these simple comments, but it stuck with me through the decades. He said very simply, "I like to say yes as often as common sense will allow." And it's like, okay, that's a good way to put it. And what he meant and he went on to explain that it's so necessary for us to have a willingness to be agreeable, to find out the things in another individual that are right and good, to know the interests and the distinctions of other individuals and say, I can go into that space with you. I want to ask you a question. Do you think of narcissists as being somebody who look for yes exchanges? I dare say no, that's not the case at all. Now, sometimes in their efforts to try to bring you around to their way of thinking, they can give the appearance that they're a yes person in the sense that they try to be agreeable, they try to find some things about you that they can lock in with. But over time, you realize, well, even that is a manipulative ploy. Now, actually, they like having yes people, which is a whole different ballgame around them, and by the flying monkeys. And by that, I mean they like having people that'll just nod their head and do anything they say to do. They want flunkies that'll just do their bidding. But that's not what we're talking about here. When we talk about narcissism, we talk about people who are fixated on no. And that sounds a lot more familiar, I suspect, to you. And I want to go through 8 different ways that we can see that narcissists are fixated on the word no. Now, for example, number 1, when you think in terms of narcissists, they have no compromise. To them, they negate the validity or the desirability of variety. In their minds, they think, well, what I need is I need you to think just like me. And so rather than having a didactic exchange with you saying, well, I know I have some thoughts, but I know you do too. Yes. It's like, no, I don't compromise. I'm not going to give up on my standards just for some idiot like you. That's how they think. Or a second no that they have is they have no objectivity. And that goes to what I was saying just a moment ago. When we say a person is objective, that's the opposite of subjective. Subjective means that you just draw upon your own inner experiences and feelings and whims and desires, and that's what drives you. That's more like the narcissist. It's like whatever my mood of the moment is, and typically it's a mood that's based upon selfishness and entitlement or the need to be superior. That's the only thing that matters. And so rather than saying, well, let's weigh things carefully. I know that I have thoughts, but there are so many different people that have very different thoughts. We need to make room for that. I'd like to know who you are and what you are all about, and let's go from there. They can't objectively filter things out. A third no that they have is have no regard for people who differ. It's like, well, if you show yourself to be too other, then it's like, I can't deal with you. And they give you rejection. And when you are rejected, it's not just your ideas or your preferences they reject, it's you as a person. So they go into high character assassination. They'll say, you either be like me or you're no good. And so rather than saying, well, people have different lifestyle practices or beliefs or preferences or priorities, let's see how we can flow with that. Yes. Instead, it's like, no, I don't do that. In fact, that makes me feel too uncomfortable. Now, a fourth element that's a part of their no approach toward life is they have no introspection. The narcissists tend to have very shallow thinking. They're prone towards black or white, all or nothing pronouncements. And when you're a yes person, you realize there's a whole lot of nuance out there. And as a yes individual, I'm thinking, well, I have mine, but yes, you have your different kinds of backstory or interpretations. Let's see if we can figure out how we're going to manage the complexities that are there. And so it means that you do go into those nuances in such a way that says we need to make room for the fact that there are all sorts of ways to zero in on how to do life and how to establish our priorities. I'm on board with that. The narcissist is like, I don't need to think like that. And don't make me have to look into myself and be touchy-feeling. that scares them. They actually just, it's just something that's a major turnoff. Now, a fifth no that is so common among the narcissists is they have no compassion for another person's pain or confusion or needs. You see, in a narcissist world, it's just too much trouble to set aside their own ego and say, I know that you have feelings, and I know that you've had experiences that may not have been all that good. Let's talk about that. How might I know you more fully? That would be the yes mentality. Instead, whenever you have your hurts or your confusions, your pain, they start telling you, here's what you should have done, or here's what I have done in these cases, and the implication is you need to do that too. They offer a lot of unsolicited advice. And if you look at the covert messages that are associated with that telling and that unsolicited advice kind of mentality, the covert unspoken message is, you just need to be like me. And if you have hurt, you need to deal with it and get over it. Come on, what's wrong with you? And that's the implication that they bring to the equation with you. Now, another no, a sixth no that they bring to the equation is they have no internal peace to draw upon. One of my major emphases that I have with individuals as we try to engage with people who are very different and sometimes very difficult is that you need to learn how to draw your peace not just from the outside world, but from inside with respect to who you are. Do you trust yourself? Do you have a sense of calm and steadiness that says whenever the world throws certain things at me that are not exactly what I want, I'll figure it out. That's what I do. Narcissists can't do that. They carry around a great deal of inner tension, lots of unfinished business. You'll notice that so much of the time they seem to have a simmering annoyance or irritability that's just right there under the surface. And so they have no peace that they can draw upon, which means that they're going to empty their lack of peace onto you. A seventh no that drives narcissists is that they have no willingness to say, I need help. I'm more than happy if I need to sit down with somebody and say, I'm confused or I'm hurt or I'm struggling. I sure could use some assistance. I think that's a great thing to do. And in fact, that's what can create bonds, and it can create connections with other individuals. And in the narcissist mind, vulnerability is really scary. It's like, no. What that means is I would have to give up my control. And my response to that is, right, that's okay. You don't need to control everybody, and you don't need to control your image so much that you have to have this picture of whatever you think you're supposed to be. But it's like, no, I have to present an image as being somebody who has it all together. It's their false self. That's how they operate. No willingness to say, I need some help. And then an eighth no that is part of the narcissistic mindset. And that is they have no sustained goodness. Now, you'll notice I throw in that word sustained. Sometimes narcissists can have acts of goodness, and they can be nice and friendly and helpful, and they can be on committees that do nice things for other individuals, or they can be tuned in at work, etc. But when we say goodness, I mean sustained. Over time with narcissists, you realize that even in their goodness, there's a hook on the backside. It's their way of saying, yeah, I'm going to be good. Now, when I do that, that gives me that much more clout to say, now you need to be just like me. You need to think like me and get inside my groove. And so even their goodness has that sinister motive that's underneath the surface. So when we talk about narcissism, we're talking about people who are fixated on no. And so I go back to that mentor of mine who says, let's say yes as often as common sense will allow. And by the way, sometimes even as you're a yes person, you still need to have boundaries and stipulations and firmness and all, so that doesn't negate that. I think you understand where I'm coming from on there. But when you're dealing with a narcissist, they bring so much no to the equation that it leaves you with a very unequal kind of interaction between you and them. So I'm going to say yes to the way that I do life, but as far as a relationship, a two-way street goes with a narcissist, I'm afraid I'm going to have to say no to that, because that narcissist is committed to their no. But in the meantime, I'm going to continue to say yes to my good sense. And I'm also going to be able to say yes to anybody that wants to engage with me with DRC, dignity, respect, and civility. We need more people who can think like that. So I hope that you can be a yes person in that sense of the word, not in the way that narcissists do. Let's have that sense of collegiality. I hope that videos such as this give you some good food for thought about what it takes to be a healthy person in sometimes an unhealthy kind of world. And you can see that one of my distinctives is it's necessary to know where the narcissist is coming from, so that you can not get stuck in them, in their ways, and you can forge your own better path. If you've not already hit that button, that subscribe button, I would encourage you to do so, and we'll keep more videos coming your way. Hit that notification bell. And I know that sometimes you could use some therapy as you are thinking this whole thing through and trying to come to terms with what you're dealing with on a personal level. I'm pleased that we have a sponsor that can help you in that regard. The BetterHelp people, if there's a link below that will take you to that, and they have a whole team of licensed professional therapists. If that's a need that you would have, I would strongly encourage you to go through that link and get the help that you might need. In addition, I have therapeutic courses, and these are extensive. They require a lot of work, but we have courses that have multiple videos and teaching points and questions that will guide you through various scenarios. Ready, Set, Connect is all about learning how to springboard from the negatives and go towards a healthy way of connecting with people. This Is Me is all about establishing boundaries, free to be, finding yourself despite the controllers in your life. So if that would be a need, that would be a very strong therapeutic effort that you might be able to make. And then we have my books and other resources below. I want to say yes as often as I can. Yes, I want to know who you are. Yes, I want to engage with you in a constructive kind of way. And I hope that you'll join me in that. And in doing so, it positions you to be known as a person of decency, a person of steadiness. And in the end, I hope it also means that you'll be a person of peace.